Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to our study of Proverbs, the sayings, where we're looking at contrasts between the righteous and the wicked. I said it before, the terms are not always used exactly like that, righteous, wicked, but the idea is still the same, especially in chapter 10, which we already saw, and chapter 11, where we are today. I won't look at it chronologically, but more under the banner of themes, if you will, or the same categories. And the first one being, again, these contrasts, really showing us how different both are. And I think that's important. We'll ponder that why later in the end of our little video. But for now, let's look more in depth about the differences between the wicked and the righteous. And to do that, we're going to actually take the first couple verses and put them together, smush them together to see something very interesting. This is what we read. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the crookedness of the treacherous destroys them. The righteous of the blameless keeps his way straight, but the wicked falls by his own wickedness. The righteousness of the upright delivers them, but the treacherous are taken captives by their lust. The righteous is delivered from the trouble, and the wicked walks into it instead. Now, when you look at the first three at least, you can see that it's not just about being wicked or righteous, but there's more of a describer with it. The integrity of the upright, or the righteousness of the blameless, and the righteousness of the upright. It really is categorizing and really putting meat to this idea of how righteous this person is, how he lives, how he thinks he behaves. Something happens with the wicked. I mean, the crookedness of the treacherous person. And we see the wickedness of the wicked person. And again, we see the idea of the treacherousness that comes from their lust. So again, it categorizes them. It really shows them the way of life, their behavior. All of these things really add to how different they are, and of course the consequences that go with it. I mean, for the upright, well, he'll be guided, he will be kept, and he will be delivered. Everything goes well for them, right? Compared, of course, to the crooked. They end up getting taken, and they fall, and they're even destroyed. Ultimately, this leads us to verse 8, where in a sense it kind of rounds up everything we've just seen of these differences by telling us that the righteous is delivered, but the trouble that he's delivered from ends up for the wicked. Now again, this isn't a truism, this is an absolute. It's just usually that's the way it is. The righteous will be delivered, but that destructiveness, that problem will end up falling on the wicked. And when we'll move along, we'll understand why. But for now, we look at the contrast, because now we want to turn to the consequences. We saw a lot of that in chapter 10. Here's some of the consequences. A man who is kind benefits himself, but a cruel man hurts himself. Well, we really see not an exact one for one, but still a clear, contrasted consequence. There's benefit for the kind person, and there's hurting for that cruel person. And don't miss it's himself, right? Really wants to bring it home that they're hurting themselves or blessing themselves. Here's another consequence. The wicked earns deceptive wages, but one who sows righteousness gets a sure reward. Now, when he talks about deceptive wages, it could be that he tries to get them in a deceptive way, but it could also mean that these wages themselves will be deceiving him. That the things they went to get will end up turning against him and causing him trouble instead. Especially when you compare it to getting a sure reward, right? There's a certainty. It is your reward and you will get it. It might not be huge, but there's going to be a certainty. There's no trickery behind it compared to the deceptive wages. I think of those genies when you make a wish, and there's always something bad with it, right? That's what happens to the wicked compared to the righteous. Again, he might not get as much as the wicked, but what he gets, it's certain. I like that. Here's another consequence. Whoever is steadfast in righteousness will live, but he who pursues evil will die. More of these contrasts and similarities. Steadfastness, you are standing still in your righteousness, compared to the evil one who's pursuing, who's running around to do more evil and different types of evil. Well, they'll get the same consequences in a sense. Living or dying. Complete contrast once again. We really know how much it will destroy you, the wickedness, and it will really give you life and bless you, the righteousness. As we look at yet another contrast. The desires of the righteous ends only in good. The expectation of the wicked in wrath. Again, this is not an absolute, but usually, and then we see here the similarities, desire, expectation, and how one will end up good and the other will be wrath itself. The wrath of God, the heavy hand of the Lord coming against them to try and destroy them. And here's yet another of these consequences. Whoever diligently seeks good, like the righteous does, he seeks favor. But evil comes to him who searches for it. Here's similarities instead. Both are seeking. One seeking with diligence. One is searching out. One wants what is good, what is righteous, and he gets favor from it. While the other one, seeking for what is evil, will have evil come against them. Again, like the bad wages, the deceptive wages. Not only did you get them deceptively, but they deceive you later on. You seek wickedness, it comes after you. Really see the striking difference between both of them. And those are the consequences, at least for now, of both the wicked and the righteous. Now I want to see how it impacts other people. How they'll respond, in a sense, to the righteous and the wicked. Yeah, we could read this. When it goes well with the righteous, the city rejoices. And when the wicked perishes, there are shouts of gladness. Again, we take note of the similarities. Rejoicing, shouts of gladness, same thing. Except there's a difference. One is going well. He is being blessed, is favored upon him. While the other literally perishes, dies, is destroyed. Because the city understands when the righteous is blessed, it's a God blessing, it's a God favor. So anyone around him, he'll be blessed too. The city will be blessed. But when there's a wicked person, he's not just going to hurt himself, he's going to hurt others. So if he can be taken out of the way, that is much better. But it's not just the city, it's not just the people. God also. Yeah. Those of crooked hearts are an abomination to the Lord. But those of blameless ways are his delight. Again, the heart of the Lord is presented to us. He has abomination for the crooked, wicked heart. But his delight, just like the people of the city, is in the blameless, is in the righteous, is in those we've been seeing over and over again who live a certain way that's agreeable to God. So, we've seen the contrast, the consequences. We've seen the impact on others. Now I have one last category that I could call miscellaneous. It doesn't really fit everywhere, but it still speaks of the differences. So first we read this. Be assured, an evil person will not go unpunished, but the offspring of the righteous will be delivered. This expression, be assured, literally means clap the hand, as in a handshake. It's almost like he's making a deal. I promise you. Like a businessman. Like a car salesman. I promise you. The evil person, this wicked person, this person living in sin, there'll be punishment for them. And we'll take note of that, put it in our pocket for later. We'll come back to it when we end our chapter. Because the offspring of the righteous, not just the righteous person, the offspring even, will be delivered. Of course, they also have to persevere. The Bible is very clear on that. You're not just blessed because you're the son of a righteous person. If you live in sin, you'll have consequences. But the offspring usually follows the father or the mother, and so tastes deliverance. The evil person gets his own consequences. The righteous usually bless others around them. The next one will be kind of weird, but I still believe it's a contrast between the wicked and the righteous. And it says, whoever trusts in his riches will fall, but the righteous will flourish like a green leaf. But tells me it's a contrast. Now you'll say, wait a second, trusting his righteousness, his riches, why is that a bad thing? Well, we did see it when we looked at riches itself. And we saw that for those who trust in the riches, it almost becomes like it's an idol, a false god. And ends up being for the fall, as it says here. That's what a wicked person does. Trust in stuff or his own abilities or money and not in God. Wicked person. And there's a fall for it. There's a destruction for it. That's why I put in this category right now in what we're looking at. Especially when you measure it with the righteous. The righteous doesn't necessarily get money. He just flourishes. I love that because we tend to go quick with righteous person, faithful person. They need to be blessed. Oh, do we love the blessings today. But actually, probably it's more fluid than that. It's more general in its calling. It's just God cares about them. It doesn't have to be great. It's just you can be assured God is with you, whatever that looks like. Now, do remember what we put in our pocket. The wicked will be punished. And we finish with this one. Verse 31 says, if the righteous is repaid on earth, how much more the wicked and the sinner? This idea of being repaid, according to almost every commentator I looked at, has this notion that the righteous, who's not perfect, who will sin, will have consequences as well when he sins. That's the idea of repaid. It doesn't seem positive but negative. So even more, the wicked and the sinner, the one who lives in sin. It might not seem like it right now, but if you realize that the righteous person also has consequences and should punishment for his sin, even more for them, it will come. I promise. Remember? I promise. Okay, this is all good for the Old Testament people. What about us in the New Covenant? Well, this is where we take all these truths and we bring it to the New Covenant. Well, we are told that as Christians, we are new people with new disposition, new desires, inclinations, a new heart. And so we live in a whole new way, think, desire whole new things. Just like the righteous is so completely different than the wicked. It's not just what it looks like, it's the way he lives and what they desire, and it's completely different. So that's why it talks about putting to death the deeds of the flesh. Or Romans 6 that tells us that we don't give ourselves over to the desires of the flesh anymore, to be slaves to them anymore, because we are the righteous category now. And it's not just Christ who justifies us by his perfect life, which is true, but he also gives a new heart. So we want to live a righteous life. It comes together. It comes together, but there are consequences. As much as there are great rewards, there's also consequences when we go back to the wicked ways. Even as Christians, there are consequences when we give into the flesh, when we sin. Repercussions, not just to ourselves, to the city or the church. So that's why Paul talks about cutting away the old leaven in 1 Corinthians chapter 5. Because it will corrupt the church. What we call church discipline. It's not that we're being mean, but the person who's obstinate in their sin, persevering and not repenting from it, will hurt the church. Cut it away. That's the best thing to do. Until they repent, of course, which is what we want. Like for our own hearts too, our own lives, we want to repent from our wicked ways because there are consequences. When we love the world and the things that are in the world, like the desires of the flesh and the eyes, we are going back to that. And there are consequences. We need to take that seriously. Repercussions for what we do. The righteous will have some, as much as the wicked will. So even if we're in that category, we're not above that. We just can't forget that, brothers and sisters. We need these truths to speak to us, how different we need to be, and the consequences that go with when we don't. May the Lord help us. See you next time, and be blessed.